We are ramping up, and we are live. It is a little after noon on November the 12th, 2018. It is a crisp fall day here in Southern Ontario. I'm Ben, your friendly neighborhood hippie, and we have Broken Chains himself in the house, reporting in from North Carolina, I believe?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah, about 20 minutes from North Carolina. Well, not even, but the city of Charlotte, I'm about 20 minutes away from.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. So,
and let's see, we've got my sister in the chat who's going to miss the show, but that's cool. She's out doing some errands. We got Michael Bishop. We've got Super Daniel Sentai theme song saying hello. We've got Lance Moss tuning in from the greater Memphis area. We got Simon Williams tuning in from the UK. And we got David Ennis joining us.
Hey, Dave. What's up, buddy?
Awesome. Yeah, we've already got 11 people jumping in.
Oh, great.
Nice. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions for me or for Broken Chains, feel free to ask away. We're going to talk some gear. We'll talk some music. We'll just talk.
And I'll let you answer the questions, Ben, because I can't even see them on my end. So
quite all right. Yeah. And if somebody has a question for you, I'll read it off to you. And
okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Quite all right. Quite all right. So, yes. We're just discussing last night I had Mr. Larry Babcock, our bass player, on. Man, I think we only just scratched the surface with that guy last night because he's literally been gigging. I think he said his first gig was in 1976.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I was 5 years old.
Yeah, and even when he was in the military, because he was in the Navy, even when they would go out on the ship for months on end, there was always a band on the ship. You always found enough players and they always brought their gear. So it was crazy because he was saying, like, they would pull into port and say Jamaica, in Kingston, Jamaica, go up to a dockside bar and say, hey, do you want to have a band here tonight? And they'd play a gig in Jamaica.
Oh, man, that's got to be a great thing if you're in the military, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook who is in the Army, and I think like his major role is to be in a rock band that represents the Army. I've seen them in Times Square right on the street, you know, playing Bon Jovi cover songs and stuff. And that's like their gig, you know, after a certain amount of years, you know, they need people that represent the Army or the Marines and the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a cool thing to do if you want to remain in the service and you want to try something different.
Yeah, ironically enough, well, we were talking about the band off air, the Killer Dwarfs. Their original guitar player, well, I shouldn't say original because this guy replaced the first guy after an album or so, but Mike Hall, who wrote most of the major hits for the Killer Dwarfs,
right
after that band broke up, he did stints in a few major Canadian bands, and then he ended up joining the military because he had a music degree from Berkeley, and he is now the head of the Canadian military band, ironically enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was the original guitar player of the Killer Dwarfs?
Of the Killer Dwarfs, yeah. So he got a haircut, joined the military. They made him a sergeant right off the bat, based off qualifications, but he still gigs when he's on leave from the military too, which is kind of cool.
And it's funny, I don't think the Killer Dwarfs were named dwarves because of their height. I think it had to do with something else. Do you know any history about that?
Yes, and well, they all were pretty darn short. I will say, like Russ Dwarf, the singer, he's 5'4" or something like that. But if you notice, it's spelled DWARFS instead of VES because they're all Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so at least that's where I assume they got it from because that's the only time you see something FS, is the Leafs and the Dwarfs.
Right.
And yeah, they got as far as, they had a few minor hits, I'll call it. And then their big deal was they toured with Iron Maiden. I'm trying to say mid-'80s, 85, 86. They opened for Iron Maiden on their U.S. tour. And Iron Maiden liked them so much that they brought them out on the road for their UK tour, which of course is a much bigger tour. You know, like they were playing hockey arenas in North America, but they were playing soccer stadiums in the UK.
Yeah, I saw Maiden. If that was the Power Slave album, the World Slavery.
It may have been.
Yeah, I saw them with Accept opened up in New York, because you know I lived in New York up until this June. So that was the first tour that I ever saw Iron Maiden, was the World Slavery Tour. And then they came out with the Live After Death double album. And that was like the ultimate souvenir for me, because I saw the tour. So now I have something that I can listen to from that tour. And I have my, you know, my T-shirt and everything else. But yeah, I was a pretty new fan. Like even the Trooper I didn't know about in 85. I think it was 85, right? That record?
Yeah, it sounds about right there.
Yeah.
In that realm.
And then I
remember back in the day when bands used to release an album a year, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Kiss was releasing albums, you know, every year an album, even every 8 months they were banging out records.
Yeah, like 3 over the course of 2 years or...
Yeah. Kiss was definitely one. Yeah, I mean, you had to come out with something or else the fans would kind of like forget about you, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, you couldn't go out on a 5-year world tour, for instance, like guys do now.
Yeah, Bon Jovi took a break between, what was it, New Jersey, and then their next record was Keep the Faith, which was a pretty long hiatus. And they lost some fans, and then they came back with haircuts. I remember John lost his big, you know, hairband hair. Richie, you know, wasn't glammed up. But that Keep the Faith album has to be my all-time favorite Bon Jovi album ever.
Yeah, They really matured into that album, I think.
Big time matured. New Jersey was a good record, but New Jersey was supposed to be a double album. And I actually have a bootleg of all the tracks that was supposed to be on the second record. And they never released it. Wow. So when Napster came out, believe it or not, they had people were leaking stuff every day. It was being in a candy store for us. So I got all of the old B-sides and bootlegs and whatever I could type in and find and dial up with my parents' modem, which took, you know, 5 hours. I would get, and yeah, that was something else. You know, it changed the world, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah,
you know, it really did. Even like, I still have the clock, you know, with the wheel, and I have, I think it holds 150 gigs or something, and that's the one that I've always used. Now, it seems like people aren't even wasting their time putting the songs in iTunes. They're just going on Spotify or whatever and, you know, going through Bluetooth and driving on the highway. Whereas, you know, I have all my records labeled and dated and everything, but I don't have any of the vinyls. I got rid of almost every CD and vinyl. I threw most of them away and gave a lot away when I moved, you know?
Right.
We went through 2 huge dumpsters and I got rid of everything. I also had every single guitar magazine since, I think, 1984 to present.
Wow.
I mean, you fucking stacks and stacks and stacks of them. And I threw every magazine out except for the Practicing. And I think there was a few others that came out once the Guitar for the Practicing Musician ended.
Right.
I think it was called Guitar One and Guitar School.
Right.
Those were good books. So I still have all of those and all of the Guitar for the Practicing. But Guitar World started, you know, banging out mags, and I got rid of most of them because, you know, you don't really need them anymore. You know, you want to find a picture of Randy Rhoads, you just boom, in 2 seconds it's on Google.
Yeah.
But I do have, to my name, I must have about 400 books left still. But I had, you know, so many. And they're all in the garage in boxes. I'll probably never open them.
Well, we got a few more people jumping in. We got Janice joining us, is doing well. Probably not going to be here too long, but that's cool. We got BV Ninja, so Louis says. So I respond back with, comment ça va, BV? Comment ça va? Let's see, we got Mark Dillon joining us. We got the Guitar Hack joining us. Awesome. Awesome. JP Page 2. Everyone's saying hey to each other. Simon Williams had asked if that's your guitar collection behind you. No, we're actually green screening. No, actually it is. It is. And Guitar Hack literally just said Broken Chains needs more guitars.
Yeah. Well, I took a photo today on Facebook, 2 pictures, and it's every guitar that I have to my name because there's nothing at the shop. Usually there's 1 or 2 at the shop, and then I don't have the completed picture because they're not at home. But everything is here, and I only started this hobby 3 years ago. I had about 10 guitars 3 years ago, and on a field, I think my son was playing flag football. I was talking to one of the dads in 2015. So we started chatting. He's like, yeah, I'm a drummer. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm a guitar player. He lived very close. And long story short, we started a band. And then I got hooked on collecting guitars. Deals were just popping up, you know, $1,000 guitars that were selling. People were broke. And I was getting them, you know, for $400. So it just started. And I don't even want anymore, but like someone will say, hey, you know, there's a Wolfgang for $400 made in you know, Mexico. Why don't you jump on it? And then I'm like, well, I can't pass this up, you know?
Right.
So that's why.
Well, and that's, if it's a serious deal and you know that you could always flip it and not only get your money back, but say turn a small profit, which you can put into something else. Yeah, like my dad taught me that, you know, like 20 years ago, I remember buying cheap Japanese, you know, like Samex or something like that. You know, you pick them up for $50-$60, spend an hour or 2, clean them up and stuff like that. And you can turn around and sell them for $75-$80 even.
Oh, yeah.
And then you take that money and buy $100 one. And, you know, and then next thing you know, you got a $500 guitar just by flipping a bunch.
Yeah. I was, you know, I'm always daydreaming. I'm like, what can I sell? What can I buy? And you're right. You know, you flip 4 guitars and you want, you know, a Les Paul standard or something. Now you got that standard for, you know, much less than you really paid out of pocket because you picked up these used guitars, you know, pretty cheap. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to part with some of them because, you know, each one of them is a story. I know where I got them from. Usually, I guess I'm such an open guy that, like, if I bought a guitar on eBay, I'll start chatting with the guy. And then I find out, oh, you're on Facebook? Oh, well, so am I. And then it becomes like a friendship just over a guitar from a complete stranger. And almost every one of them, I know who the seller was to this day, you know?
Right.
Because I probably have maybe 5 that I bought brand new off the rack. Everything else is pre-owned, you know, from someone.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think I only have 2, including the custom guitar, the newest one. That's the second new guitar I ever bought for myself in my life.
Wow.
We got Quentin James in the house. Good to see you. And we had Henrik Viking in the house as well.
Some new names, huh, Ben?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always nice. I will say, like, I've been doing YouTube since mid-January. And I would say, like, every 3 months, a third of the active chat changes over. You know, like, names change. You know, it seems like, you know, we'll watch, say, my channel or Johnny's channel, and you have 30, 40 active people in the chat. And I'd say, you know, every 3 months, 10 of them swap out. 10 names disappear, 10 new names. So it's always a constant.
Right.
But, yeah, you know, like, people get girlfriends, new jobs, different shift even. Something comes up. Like, I remember for a while there, I was missing Johnny's show every Tuesday for about a month because it just happened I had band practice from 7 until 9 every Tuesday.
Right.
You know, and then I catch the replay, and I remember half the time I was like catching the replay. I was busy last night, and Johnny would reply, "So how was band practice?"
Yeah, it's funny too. If you watch a replay, you don't see all the comments that were live, so you can't see the people that viewed it. I think like right when the show gets off the air, if you're still commenting, or if you comment while the show is off the air, you'll see those comments.
Right.
But they disappear, you know.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really stick to my word is that if somebody responds to, say, a cover song that I did on YouTube, and I look at their channel and they're another guitar player that I've never seen before, I'll instantly subscribe to the person.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, holy, if you didn't tell me, you know, if you didn't comment on my, you know, whatever song, I would have never have known that you existed. So this is like the greatest thing for me, and I'm not, you know, lying about it. It's
yeah.
true. So
I agree. Yeah, I find like if I get a new subscriber, especially like if they have it public, so you know you get notified when someone subscribes to you or comments.
Right. Yes.
I'll check out their channel, and if they have any content, I'll generally subscribe.
Yeah, same with me. If they, you know, are playing an instrument, whether it's the piano, any instrument, I'll subscribe. You know, if they have zero content and just liked videos, well, you know, maybe one day they'll pick up a guitar and play something. But I've seen some YouTubers also that have 2,000 subscribers. And if you look at the comments, they're all from foreign people who have zero instruments, zero anything. So I don't know where these people are coming from that are commenting on other channels, but I know they're not commenting on mine because every single person is usually a musician, or it's, you know, my mom and dad. But yeah, you know, you'll look at someone's, you know, great job. I know they didn't watch that person's video.
Right.
So, you know, where are these people coming from? Maybe they have groups or chats, you know, you sub, I sub. That's not what I'm into.
Yeah, and you know, and it is building a community by, you know, everyone subbing to each other. But if you're looking to grow your channel, like say like me, you know, I want to have a major channel someday down the road. The way YouTube's algorithm works is if you just have, like, if everybody just subs to each other, and let's say I have my 500 subs and you have 1,000 subs, and we put out the same video, and if 200 of my 500 watch it, YouTube's going to say, hey, 40% of his subscribers watch his videos. Let's put it up as a recommended video. Whereas if you have 1,000 subscribers and 200 watch, YouTube is less likely to promote you because only 20% of your subscribers are bothering to watch. And that's the problem with the sub for sub thing. Like, unless it's fellow guitar players all subbing each other, that helps because chances are they're going to click on your video. You know, it's a 50-50 chance. But if, you know, that tourist video channel that talks about hanging out in the Caribbean, they'll subscribe you because you sub to them because you're into the Caribbean, but they have no inkling to ever watch a guitar video. It actually hurts you in the long run.
And, you know, the percentage of the amount of time that somebody even watches a video, you know, say you did Wanted Dead or Alive, you know, you start playing the song. Most people are going to click on it and quickly fast forward to like the solo and then just, you know, say, great job. You know, I don't think that they sit and watch the entire 4-minute video. I do, because I like to learn things from other musicians. So I'll be like, wow, that's how he did that, you know?
Well, yeah, like I generally, when I don't even necessarily watch your videos as much as listen to them, because when you'll put up a video, like, you know, it's 5 minutes. Well, I'll put on the Broken Chains video while I'm answering comments on another tab, right? And then I'll listen to it, and I'm like, yeah. And when I say, hey, that was a good job, it's because I listened to it, and I'm like, dang, that was a good job, you know? Speaking of which, Guitar Hack says, yeah, Broken Chains, your cover's rock, dude.
Oh, well, Guitar Hack is such an awesome guy, and he's, you know, we're new friends. I found him probably from, you know, you or Johnny or, you know, the guys that we're all friends with now.
Right.
But, you know, I started looking at his stuff and I'm like, wow, this guy is pro player. You know, he's a
Yeah.
pro guy.
Yeah, he's gigging all the time. You know,
Yeah.
even though he calls himself a hack, he more than gets by, I'll say.
You know, I'm a hobby guy. You know, this was
Yep.
never my career. I just don't play golf, so I'd rather play the guitar. And you know, I don't drive a Mercedes or some fancy car. I'd rather have
Right.
a whole bunch of guitars that are not going to depreciate. But you know, when you watch some of these guys in 2 seconds, you'll be like, you know, his vibrato is amazing. You know, he's a pro guy, really great guitar player. There's so many of both of our subscribers that are just amazing musicians. You know,
yeah,
and that's what I love. I don't even watch TV. I watch everyone's videos. You know, when I get
right.
a notification, it's exciting to see, you know, what comes up. Even some of the comedy stuff that I've been watching on some of these guys, like Pooh, you know, puts up some stuff with his channel, which is it's entertaining, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And let's see here. We got Brian Stewart in the house. Welcome, buddy. We have a question from David Ennis. Can you ask Jimmy what amp he uses?
Well, I have my original amp that I got when I was, I think, 19, which is a Randall RG100 solid state head and matching 4x12 cabinet. It's the same, you know, Randall that Dime used, George Lynch was using. I think it came out in '87, if I remember correctly. But that is, you know, an amp that I'll have for life unless it just blows. But I don't even use an amp because I'm a big processor guy now. So everything that you hear on YouTube, I do with an atomic amplifier processor that I recently got. You know, when you're in the market for a Line 6 or a Helix or whatever is popular at the time, this atomic amplifier came out and it was, I think, around $500. So somebody posted a video, a friend of mine on Facebook who's in a Metallica tribute band. I believe that they're from California and they're called Damage Incorporated.
Okay.
He plays, you know, to 4,000 or 5,000 people in Damage Incorporated, and they're, you know, one of the best Metallica bands in California.
Right.
And he did the entire show with this small red atomic amplifier. I can pick it up. I'll just unplug it.
Sure.
But this is what it looks like.
Oh, cool.
And, you know, it's a processor. So when I jam with my band, I bought one of those full range speaker systems from Headrush. I'm not sure if I'm even saying it correctly. I think it's the full range flat response.
Okay.
So what you hear out of this thing, you're hearing out of that cabinet.
Right.
So if you set those IRs, you know, if you want Celestion or whatever cabinet mode you want, if you'd play it out of an amp, you'd have to shut it all down. But if you're playing it from one of those speakers, it's true to sound. So I don't use an amp anymore. I use only this thing. I could put it in my gig bag. And then I use, I have a Boss ME70, which is old technology.
Right.
But honestly, it's like having all of these Boss pedals in one unit, and the wah is fantastic. There's tons of effects. So I'm using this. I usually use a Mesa head on this. And then I'm going with that Boss ME70 for effects. And don't dial in any effects. I'm only using the head and the cab on this. And then the speaker system. And then I believe it or not, I have the Pod HD 500 too, because I use that as a 4-cable method only because I can control the volume. So I don't even have any amp blocks in it. I'm using it like kind of, it's not like a power amp, but it's hard to explain. I can control the volume and control a lot of settings using it with this thing. A lot of people will use that just for MIDI, but I have, you know, clean, dirty, and super dirty. So those are like my main 3 channels. But
Okay.
this is a great thing. I mean, they came out with a few versions now, so you could pick this up. I've seen it on eBay for like, you know, $350.
Oh,
And
nice.
Satchel uses this. This is his only rig, this thing. So in Steel Panther right now, he's got this hooked up to that pink new distortion pedal that we all know about with the
Right.
dirty
Yeah.
bird. And I think he's got a wah, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
He's going through the house, you know, through the
Right.
PA. And man, it I think it's amazing. You know, for the price, the Helix amazing too, but once I mastered this with the tones I wanted, I'm like, do I really need to go spend, you know, $1,200 on something when I already got the tones? I searched long and hard for tones, and I got what I want. I love my cleans, and I think my dirty is pretty good, you know. So
Nice.
I hope that helps. But I do also have the Boss Katana 100 combo. I traded, well, no, I didn't trade. I think I got it like the day it came off, you know, sent to the stores. Some gear guru I'm friends with on Long Island bought it, hated it. I picked it up for $3, and it was like brand new.
Nice.
Took a huge loss on it, and we're still friends. And then I have a crate power block, those mini crates back from, I think, the 90s.
Okay.
And a PV Bandit 75 that someone threw out on the curb. There was a loose wire, and I have that too. So those are the amps that I use. But if I ever played, you know, a huge show, I would probably either go through the house with the Atomic or go old school with that Randall, you know?
Right. And basically just set up the Randall as a clean platform for your process signal.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
I get it.
Or go through the line out in the back, you know?
Right.
But the Randall...
looks like we got a few more people jumping in here. We got Terry's GG&G, we got Zach Thong, and we got the Guitar Pit. Also, and BV mentioned it, and I want to mention it. And BV, if you could post the link, or somebody else with a wrench could post the link to that GoFundMe in the chat, with the fires out in California. I don't know if you're aware, Jimmy, but Wayne and Mike Charvel lost everything.
Who? Which guys?
Wayne Charvel.
No, really?
Yeah, he lost everything from what I've heard. And so they set up a GoFundMe for Wayne and Mike Charvel. And so if somebody can post the link to that GoFundMe, I think that's definitely a worthy cause. Wayne Charvel, he's one of those guys in the early 80s that started out of or 70s, started out of a garage and changed the face of guitars in many ways.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, you don't even know how wealthy these guys are. You think, oh, Wayne Charvel, he's got to be worth 500 mil. You know, these guys might have their names on every guitar, but they're not as wealthy as you think. So, I mean, they might need the help when it comes to
yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Everyone thinks, well, everybody was playing a Jackson and a Charvel in the 80s. Yeah, then Nirvana happened. You know how many guitars they probably sold after 1992? None.
Yeah. Oh, man, I got some amazing deals on brand new Ibanez's because the salesman's like, nobody wants a pointy guitar. You know, It's listing for $1,200. I'll give it to you for $5 with the case, brand new. I'm like, all right, where do I sign? You know?
We got a gentleman by the name of Jake in the chat that says, hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Jake, what's up, buddy?
JP Page 2 also mentions Neil Young lost everything in the fires.
Wow. I think Sam Bora has a house there, too. Someone mentioned that he might have got hit, you know. But, yeah.
I know it's bad when Johnny commented it's very smoky, and we know he's up in the Bay Area, more or less, we'll say. Right. And then you got Caleb in Santa Monica saying the fires were 7 miles from his place. You know, and those guys are like a 5-hour drive apart. So
you know, it seems like this happens every year in California, too, which is crazy, you know?
Well, they've had, a 5-year drought now? So.
My God. It's very scary. You know, you build this beautiful house that you live there with your family for, you hope for the rest of your life, and now it's, you know, wiped out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
can't be controlled, you know?
No, no. It's crazy stuff. Yeah.
That was
So,
one reason.
yes, so we got the GoFundMe's in the chat here, folks. So if you're watching live or on replay and you want to contribute to Wayne Charvel, definitely click the links in the chat. It looks like Neil Young lost his Malibu home. Okay, so it wouldn't have been the ranch up around San Jose, thankfully, because I know he's got a lot of his vintage stuff is stored up in the ranch.
Yeah, you know, I listened to Needle and the Damage Done the other day, and that song is just incredible. You know, his singing, his playing, the lyrics, man. And then, you know, all these guys that got lost from suicide and overdoses, you know, the rock stars that we all love. It's just some song that always stand the test of time, that tune.
Yeah. BV says about regarding the Charvels, yes, their shop and both their homes were in Paradise, and that got wiped out. I spoke to Mike Charvel yesterday. It's all pretty grim. Yes, I actually saw a motorsports reporter that I'm friends with on Facebook. He used to work for Speed TV and stuff. He was up around Paradise yesterday, and I saw some of the photos, and it, like, that whole town's gone essentially.
Yeah, I saw a documentary on YouTube a few days ago, and yeah, you're right. Paradise is wiped out, you know?
Yep.
I think,
and we got Powell Guitars joining us and Old Man Dan. Greetings, gentlemen.
What they say, there were 27,000 residents in Paradise, and everyone, almost everyone got wiped out, if I'm correct.
Yeah. We had that happen a few, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe, in northern Alberta, up around around, what is it, Fort McMurray area, where all the oil sands projects are, like where, you know, we supply all the oil to you guys type thing. Right. And it was a forest fire came through, and it was I'm trying to remember the site. It wasn't a big town. Let's say a town of 5,000 people. The town was gone in under an hour.
Man.
Yeah, and one of my cousin's daughters was living out there, and she's like, literally, they lost everything in half an hour. It was just this 50-foot high wall of fire that just raged across.
It's incredible. And well, how are they going to stop this fire? You know, I'm not really keen on.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of it's preventative. You know, like you almost have to clear cut a quarter mile around the city, right, to have that fire break. And unfortunately, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, when people are putting in, especially, let's say, your higher end subdivisions, now where you're going to have your $500,000 home, so they'll leave a lot of trees on the lots. So you automatically have that old growth wooded driveway, which seems beautiful, and really it's more environmentally friendly because they're not cutting down all the trees. But you're also putting basically kindling and tinder all around your home. So yeah. But, yeah, it's pretty crazy. BV says, yeah, worst fires ever. So far, 31 have passed away and hundreds still missing.
Wow.
Yeah. So be safe, California. Be safe. So here's a question. We'll get back onto guitars. What guitar player or guitar players got you interested in finally picking up a guitar? And the way I say it is because we were always music fans, you know, from the time we're kids. But then there's, at some point, usually around the age of 13, 14, it seems, somebody goes, that's it, I'm going to learn this thing. Who was it that got you to pick up a guitar?
You know, I'd say it was Randy Rhoads or Angus Young, but it really wasn't, because the visual is what got me started. The day I saw MTV is when I became obsessed with, this is what I want to do, you know, as a hobby and enjoy, you know, this passion. So honestly, it had to have been the Looks That Kill video by Motley Crue when I saw Mick Mars with that white Warlock.
Right.
And this, I think that came out in 84, possibly.
Yeah, right in around there, yeah.
But you know, the first song I ever heard was what the heck was it? It was an AC/DC album. It wasn't Highway to Hell. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Okay.
It was probably the first song that I heard when I went away to on family vacation up into the Catskills, and I was like 9 years old or 10 years old. And one of the older boys had a radio, and he was playing that record, you know, on cassette, 24/7.
Right.
And I was just like, my God, I've never heard anything, you know, like Dirty Deeds. It was just the greatest rock song. So I instantly got hooked on AC/DC, and that was that before Crazy Train came out. And then, you know, then I heard Crazy Train.
Right.
I didn't even know that Black Sabbath existed because,
right.
you know, I was such a young boy. Same with Kiss. I didn't get into the Kiss makeup years until I started listening to the non-makeup Kiss, because that's what I was brought up on. And Van Halen.
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
I was a Van Hagar fan before David Lee because of my age. But the beauty of it is I went back and bought every record, you know, the whole catalog from the first record to what I had at the time. And it was like, oh my God, now I have 2 bands to listen to. I have Bark at the Moon from Ozzy, and I have We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll, the double Black Sabbath greatest hits. I'm like, I've never heard this, and this is the greatest thing.
Right.
But as far, it was a visual for me that made me pick up the guitar, which was Mick Mars, you know?
Sure.
The MTV generation. I'm trying to think of the videos that came out early MTV. You know, Bark at the Moon came out, but they didn't show that much footage of Jake. So, I mean, Mick Mars, like that Warlock just glowed white when he was doing that solo, and it was just like the coolest thing.
Right.
But that's probably, you know, who started it for me. You know, it was a visual with the video.
And we got What's Up Doc joining us, and Mark Dillon's headed out. He says, later guys, I got to catch up on some paperwork. And Shauna Marie Sings just joined us. We got 28 people watching in the middle of the day. How about that?
Sure. You know, if it's their lunch break, you know, thank you so much for tuning in, because it's not an easy task to enjoy your lunch when you're working and watch someone's YouTube channel, you know? Exactly.
Yeah, I can understand, you know, influence-wise, kind of the same way. Like, I can say visually, for me, you know, other than my dad was obviously an influence, because, like, I didn't know you would grow up in a household where your dad didn't work nights playing music. You know, that was normal to me. But it was 2 guitar players that visually it was Ace Frehley, because you know, with the makeup and the theatrics, and even later on, because, you know, Kiss was playing that rock and roll music, but Ace's playing was still very much high gain Chuck Berry in many ways. You know, like a lot of the licks and stuff. And I went, hey, he plays that rock and roll that my dad plays, but he's doing it in this cool way with this Marshall stack behind him. And the other was Eddie Van Halen, because every time you saw Eddie, you know, he's leaning back doing, say, a tap with this huge grin on his face. And I thought, that's got to be so much fun to do, because he's smiling every day. You know, and who knew, you know, and then musically too, because I remember I got my first Walkman around 1984.
How
and
old are you, Ben?
I'm 44.
Okay, I'm 47, so I'm a little older. You know, 3 years.
Yeah, so but basically, yeah, same wheelhouse. And yeah, I got like Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA album, because that was huge. Somebody had given it to me. And I think I had the Purple Rain soundtrack. But then I was at my grandfather's house, and my cousin from Los Angeles left just a copied cassette. And on side A of that cassette was Van Halen's Diver Down. And I put that on, you know, and let's forget about, you know, Pretty Woman, great, but I'm listening to Intruder. I'm listening to, you know, that entire album, you You know, because that's what we used to do. We'd sit and listen to an entire album front to back.
Yeah.
And I was listening, you know, all the instrumental pieces, and, you know, I'm trying to figure out Cathedral, is that a keyboard? No, I think that's a guitar, because you could hear the string slides, you know.
Right.
And I was just like, I got to figure this guy out. Hey, speaking of which, we got the California crew just jumped in, Caleb Rappaport and Johnny Bean.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Be safe, both you guys. We've been talking about the fires out there, and we want you guys to be safe out there.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's great to see you guys jumping in. Yeah, and that was it for me. You know, was hearing. Wait, you know, you don't like. I always think of it as stuff you can't get away with now. Like Van Halen's "Everybody Wants Some." The first minute and a half of that song is just gibberish and really in the reality of things, just fooling around. You couldn't get away with doing that now.
No, and that was in a movie too, right? Wasn't it in like a teen movie? Everybody Wants Some.
I think so.
I'm sure Johnny knows the answer to that. It was like they were in a diner. It was the diner scene or something, and like started to be claymation. All the little things started playing instruments.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that either. It does sound familiar though. Caleb says "Better Off Dead."
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
There we go. See, we knew that you guys would know. Hey, we got Randall Fisher in the house. We hit 30 people watching. Hey, it's a full class.
Yeah.
Very nice. With Cusack, yeah. Man, I'll watch anything with the Cusack family in it. Brother, sister, or father, for that matter.
And even, you know, we grew up on such great music. We also grew up on such great movies, you know? I just, you know, my oldest boy is 14, and I don't think he has a movie that he loves so much as some of the classics that we all grew up with, you know?
Yeah.
It just, everything's changed in that sense too, you know?
Oh yeah. Like, I don't know, but me as a musician, and I fell in love with the movie years before I was a musician, because it was one of the few things I could bond with my dad on, was the Blues Brothers movie.
Right.
You know, and we would watch it at, you know, as a child, I would watch it at face value. You know, like some of the more slapstick stuff I'd laugh at. But meanwhile, my dad would sit there and watch it with me. And, you know, it's like the famous line from Bob's Country Bunker, where we play both kinds of music, country and Western. And there's my dad just rolling, crying over that line on the couch, you know. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, wait till you're older and you go and gig, son. You know, because all those great, you know, little subtle things, you know, like keep playing while we got to do something in the background, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, love. And that soundtrack, I was one of the few guys that, you know, when everyone else is listening to Poison and Motley Crue, I'm listening to the Blues Brothers soundtrack, because they had one hell of a backup band.
Yeah. What year did that movie come out? And you remember?
I want to say in around 80, 81.
Wow. Man, that was such a long time ago. And then Belushi, well, what was his claim to fame besides that? Obviously, it was
Animal House.
Animal House. Were there any other ones that you recall?
Was
you know, Saturday Night Live put him on the map.
Yep, 1941.
I've never seen that movie.
It wasn't the best movie. But yeah, he did. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was a couple other movies that are escaping me right now. But it was definitely a short career, movie-wise. You know, it was 5-6 years for Belushi.
Right.
Hey, we got Vincent Weiner and EJ's Guitars in the house, and Van L. Singh. Good to see all of you. 1980, Caleb says. There we go. Awesome.
It's hard for me to see, but is that a blue BC Rich in the background?
It is. Here, I'll grab it for you. And we got Carlos Figueroa in the house.
Hey, Carlos. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, I know it's hard.
Yes, this was my Valentine's gift to myself this year as a single guy. And, yeah, a nice blue Mockingbird. Low end, so plywood. Made about 15 years ago, I think. And after having Adam Reaver on, he sent me a set of FU Tone pickups to try out in it. Because believe it or not, when they were doing the testing and design of FU Tone pickups, they never bothered trying them in a plywood guitar. Go figure.
Yeah.
And yeah, this thing howls. Love it. Use it mainly for slide work these days.
I had one of those in the late 90s, in like wine red when Slash was playing. I think it was You Could Be Mine. Maybe he played one, Ben?
I think so. That sounds familiar.
And it was the same type of wood. It was very cheap wood. I didn't pay, I think, maybe $400 new for it. And then I didn't recoup much money, but Nirvana and all the grunge stuff was popular, so I ended up flipping it. But
sure.
I probably flipped 30 guitars, besides the ones you're seeing here throughout my life. I've always done that.
And that's the way I saw it, was like, it's not the most practical guitar in the world, but I always wanted a Mockingbird. More, and as you can say, like when you have enough guitars, you're essentially buying wall hangers that you can also play, because you as much want to look at them as play them. And that's the way I saw it. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't have to play like $1 million because I don't need it to, as a result. And but yet it's made it out to a handful of gigs.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I lost you on my end there. So I was seeing just the Canucks with guitar circle. But no, I see you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Talk about the Blues Brothers movie. Carlos is watching from work, and EJ's watching from work, and
yeah, Carlos is a new
Van Elsing says, "Take care, all. I'm driving right now." Okay, rock on. Be safe. Awesome.
Yeah,
Everyone
Carlos
kind of talking to each other.
And I,
Lance Moss loves Mockingbirds as well. Nice.
Ben.
Carlos
and I became close probably within the last few months. Just from being on YouTube and then on Facebook and then talking in real life. He's a very great person. And he's got an awesome EVH collection, I must say.
Yes. And talk about dedication. His trip to and from EVH Con, eh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was...
The planes, trains, and automobiles.
God. But if you come down to the Carolinas, we definitely have to hook up because you have gone here before, correct?
Yep. I've done 5-6 trips down there. I'm not too sure the next time I'm getting down. I didn't make it this year. Next year is about 50-50. More for my cousin because he's getting busier. And let's be honest, he's the one with the truck. He's the one with the trailer. He's the one with all the infrastructure. Right. But definitely, if and when I get back down there, you and I will be hooking up for sure. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Even if we meet.
Let's see. We got a question for you. Ask Jimmy, since he's a flipper like many of us, does he have one out of his collection that's never leaving?
Oh, yeah. Who asked that one, Ben?
Brian Stewart.
Well, I have the Bones, obviously. And then I have that hand-painted Steve Stevens Washburn signature. I'll grab those.
Sure. And Caleb also says that you need to come to NAMM.
I know. I do. But for me to do something like that, I think my wife would want, to go to Hawaii before I go and spend time in California for my own pleasure,
Yeah.
So with 3 young kids, I don't know if I can pull it off. I would love to go, that's for sure, because that's how I'll meet all of these amazing people that I see on Facebook all the time. But this guitar I would never sell. It's just something that can't even be made again, because when I got it, it was just a relationship I established with the builder, and I know what he did to build this, and he's built so many others. But you know, this one is mine, and it's just something you can't buy in the store. And if you found one, you know, on eBay or got a new one built, it would not be the same. So this, you know, Skull and Bones, the George Lynch, it's a replica, but it's got all the permissions from George and from J Frog because the builder is personal friends with them. So it's not, you know, some Chinese piece of junk. But this I would never sell. This one here.
Nice. And we got Casper Boo joining us all the way from a cold UK, he says. Very nice. Welcome, welcome. We got 34 people watching, so please leave a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified whenever we put up some content. Oh, yes. What do we got there?
This in, what was it? When Motley Crue broke up, Vince Neil went on his own with Steve Stevens. Steve got endorsed by Washburn, and he came out with a couple of models of the Washburn Steve Stevens signature guitar. And this was one of them, which the day I saw it in a magazine, I was just obsessed with it. And it took a long, long time to find. And this guitar, I don't know if it was made by Washburn or they had an artist working for them painted, but the entire guitar is hand painted. So I found this after years of searching, and it's completely relict too. I bought it pre-owned from a shop in Korea who was selling like $5,000 guitars. I think he had like 40 of them on eBay, and then he had this one, and I'm like, well, I doubt the guy is gonna pull a fast one on me if he's selling all this high-end inventory. And I sent them a few private messages, and that was it. So this one is the second guitar I would never sell because you can't find it. And if you do want to find it, it's like $6,000, which is just completely insane. You know, without the paint job, brand new, I think they were going for like $1,200. But that was also in '91. But this guitar, this got the Dave Nesdal treatment on it, and it's an amazing guitar. Same with the Bones. I was lucky enough to be good friends with Dave, and he would just work on stuff for me, you know, and make them his magic because he's got a certain action that he loves, and it's not easy to find someone that could do that like Dave did. But yeah, this one too, those are probably the only two I'd never sell. Everything else, nice. I think I could find again, and you know, buy or find online. But these, you know, are very hard to find. And that Bones one, you know, I could buy one tomorrow and cut the guy, you know, a chunk of cash, but it's not the same because the one that I have is built for me, you know. So let me put this one back.
And apparently Carlos says you have to come to EVH Con next year, and that goes for me as well.
Oh,
I'll see what I can do, Carlos.
Yeah, I was supposed to go this year. I thought it was going to be in November, and then my wife said, sure, you can go. But I don't know if the dates changed or it always was in October, but we went to Universal Studios, and I wasn't going to cancel a family vacation to go there. So I missed out, you know, but next year I want to go. You know, it looked like a
hey, we got 7 over 8. Jay Hannon himself in the chat.
Hello, Jay.
Let's see here. Brian Stewart says, if you don't mind, would you get down another guitar as the pastel rainbow guitar over your shoulder?
Sure.
Excuse me.
And this actually just came back from the shop today because when I moved from New York to South Carolina, the weather took a beating on a lot of these guitars. So I brought this one to the shop, and it's you know, amazing. I found a new tech that's 15 minutes from my house, and he's 31 years old. Is like an Ingve clone, so he knows how the action should be, just like
Right.
Dave. And he is just incredible. And I told him I'm going to come over just to hang with you and not even bring a guitar. So we became friends. He's such a nice guy. But this was a guitar that I purchased 10 years ago on eBay from a USA guy who claims that he made the bodies and the necks. And I bought it, you know, the neck and the body together. Unfinished, no paint. It sat for 10 years because I was lazy and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. I found a guy that I'm very close with in Ohio named Roger Bowler, who has a paint job company called Swirl the World. And long story short, I sent him the body and told him that I wanted it to be like an Italian ice or, you know, cotton candy.
Sure.
And he swirled the entire thing for me.
Beautiful.
He gave me a PAF from an old gem that matched the body. One
Love
of his
it.
own personal pickups he threw in for free. And it's got, you know, the short Kramer headstock.
Right.
You know, it's not a Kramer, but, you know, it's cut to specs. But it's extremely unique. Everyone that sees it, they're like, wow, what is that, you know? And I wasn't a swirl fan, but I wanted something that was a little different than the ordinary swirl.
You got to have one swirl in the collection, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. And his prices were incredible. You know, you think, oh, what's that going to be? $800 to swirl the guitar. Wasn't even a fraction of that, you know? So,
sure.
But that's this.
Yeah, everyone in the chat saying it's a great guitar. They're loving your room. Broken Chains Guitar Center, they're calling it.
Well, you know, I have some friends that every guitar they own is $2,000 and up. I never wanted to be that guy. I like to have parts guitars and make them my own, or find guitars that are, you know, under a certain range. I went with that Pixie Licks method of buying guitars, nothing over 500. You know, so if you could find $1,000 guitar for 400, it's huge, you know. But I do love my collection. You know, some people have, you know, all these Jackson Phil Collins models and Les Paul Customs and, you know, super high-end stuff. But I like to have just, you know, a couple of parts put together with a Floyd, and there you go. Like Caleb has, you know, he's got some parts guitars that are phenomenal.
Sure.
And the guy, you know, can shred like crazy. So, but yeah.
Shauna says, that guitar is gorgeous. Reminds me of the giant flat taffy I used to get as a kid in the 70s.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's got
very
that
nice.
look.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'll say, you know, like I've seen a portion of your collection being between Facebook and you using various guitars and videos, that you have a very unique collection. You know, it's not the same, like you say, you know, like it seems like everybody wants to have a Strat, a Tele, a Les Paul, you know, a Wolfgang, what have you. Whereas, yeah, you go for something a little different, like the Steve Stevens Frankenstein. You know,
Right.
Most people are like, at first glance, I thought, honestly, that was a Kirk Hammett guitar, because I know he's into Frankenstein and he's got like the Ouija board stuff too, you know, kind of the same vein. But the Steve Stevens is way cooler than a Kirk Hammett. Anybody can have a Kirk Hammett.
Right. Yeah. It's a guitar that you can't just buy, you know, off the rack. I mean, if you had the bread and wanted to get an ESP, you can just order it. But that Frankenstein is like, I don't even know how many were painted. You know, someone said 14, or it could have been higher. But I think this guy named Driscoll painted mine. I've been trying to reach him now for a while just to verify it.
Sure.
But yeah, you know, I owned a USA Fender Strat Blackie like Clapton. I owned an 86 Les Paul Standard. I've owned so many guitars that were high-end guitars. And then after a while, the novelty wears off. So I sold them to buy other things and, you know, made a couple of bucks, not much, but, you know, profited on them.
Sure.
And you know, started fresh again. But I was always a big Nuno guy because his first guitar was an unfinished Jackson body, if I recall, with a reverse headstock Warmouth neck, not even anything else. And then he hooked up with Washburn, and we
Right.
started the first N4 prototype. But I have a Guitar World magazine where his guitar says Washburn on it, but that's a Warmouth neck he's got, you know. So
Right.
I'll show you another one that got me hooked into that.
Sure. And BV says that you have an awesome display cabinet in there also.
Yeah, well, I like the monster figures, you know, like Kirk and all these guys that collect Jason and Freddie and stuff.
Right.
But this guitar, this is a black 1987 USA BC Red T3. When I
nice.
first saw Extreme and Nuno was playing his Washburn, I'm like, you know something? My parents aren't going to buy me that Washburn, and I don't know if the N2 was out or if it was. I wasn't getting it because the local store weren't carrying them. So I decided to strip my own guitar, and I took all the paint off and sand for like weeks. Probably in, I guess, 91, maybe I did this. I put in a new, no, actually I didn't change the pickup. It's got an original DiMarzio. The only thing I did was add that deep tuna later in life. This has an original edge. BC Rich was making these guitars with edge trems back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the edge was on the Gem and the RG 550s, and the good Ibanez's had these edges. And also BC Rich sourced them out. And then I went with the Warmouth reverse headstock neck. And I remember buying this neck. I had to fill out the form. You know, it was a mail order form that I had to do. You couldn't just go on the internet and design your own neck. So I had no idea what I was doing. My buddy worked in Sam Ash, and I brought the BC Rich to him, and he's like, well, I think the pocket is this size. And, you know, he helped me fill out the paperwork because I was clueless. And then I built this. So this I've had since '87. You know, it was black, and now it's been like this since, you know, since the early '90s. But
nice. Carlos says, you guys have a great time. My break is almost over. Jimmy, I'll talk to you later. Ben, cheers from New York. See you, Carlos.
All right, Carlos.
And Johnny Bean mentions that he saw Steve Stevens showing off the Frankenstein Washburns in 1993 at a guitar shop before the Van Halen tour.
Oh, wow. So in a guitar shop, he said he saw him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going back a long ways. I think he had the black model, the Frankenstein, and he had an unfinished body. And then something happened, and he just left Washburn like almost immediately. So they didn't make too many of those guitars, but the necks that are on those guitars are amazing.
Nice. And I always thought, you know, Washburn, they were always an underrated company. You know, like they advertised as much as anyone else, but for whatever reason, you know, it was kind of like, you know, Extreme. I remember they were big, but they were kind of niche for whatever reason, right. You know, so it just, you know, and then you had, it was like, yeah, they had Nuno, they had Steve Stevens, but it was always like, well, it's not Eddie, you know, it's not George Lynch for whatever reason. So people just kind of, well, maybe I'll look at one, but great guitars.
It was hard to find too, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the big store for me was Sam Ash before Guitar Center. Guitar Center came later to, you know, the metro area. But Sam Ash didn't really have a Nuno Betancourt Washburn hanging up for sale, or even a Steve Stevens, you know. And if they did, I mean, they didn't last long, and the prices were sky high, like, you know, $3,000 or something. But and then, you know, the mom and pop stores would never take a gamble on having one of those guitars.
No,
so,
if anything, they would bring in the import version of the signature guitar, right?
Right. Yeah. So you'd see it in a magazine, like even that Paisley Yamaha, that I forget the guy's name, Blues Saraceno.
Oh, Blue. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He had that awesome Paisley. I think it was Paisley or a plaid. I'm sorry, it's a plaid, green and black Yamaha.
Oh yeah. I remember the plaid guitars.
And you're not going to find that. Like, no one would even carry that, you know? So, like, even Yamaha was a good brand, but they weren't that available either, you know?
Right.
And then the Ernie Ball Music Man Van Halen, I mean, I could have bought that guitar. There was like 8 of them in the local Sam Ash that was near me, and they weren't even that high priced. I just thought they were the ugliest guitars I've ever seen at the time, you know?
Right.
Now,
well, yeah, that's the thing, because we're guitar players. We are so traditional that, I remember when the Wolfgang came out, I went, okay, you know, I could see the Les Paul, the Telly, and have melded together, but because it was a new shape, it's just like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. But I think the only reason, I bet you if Music Man had released that guitar without Eddie's involvement anywhere, it would just be another odd-shaped guitar that sold a handful or whatever. But because it was Eddie, you had the people that would say, okay, you know, I'll buy it because Eddie has it.
Yeah, right. My thoughts exactly, you know. And if you could have nailed, I think they had a pink version out there. I mean, that guitar is worth a fortune right now. But I hated it. I remember that guitar, World Magazine, with Eddie on the cover saying, "This is my new guitar." And I was like, my God, that is a butt ugly looking guitar, you know? It took me a long time to finally appreciate how amazing that first Ernie Ball Music Man is, you know? And then when you pick one up and feel that neck, you're like, my God, this neck is incredible, you know? But I agree with you on that. If it was just a production model without a signature endorsement, it could have just lasted a few years and then that was it, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody would be talking about them.
Exactly. Let's see. Janice says she commented on your Facebook post, but she's having Facebook problems, so she's not sure if it posted. Well, Jimmy's on his phone right now. Check right now. BV Ninja also mentioned, has Jimmy looked up my friend Eric Steckel's music? If not, I'm pretty sure he would like it. I was fortunate to hook up with Eric again this first week in November.
Is that a store near me, or is that an online shop?
No, he actual guitar player, Eric Steckel.
Oh, okay. You know, if he wants to just go on any video and just leave his name, I'll find him, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Judd Lofthouse joining. Looks like he's watching a little delayed, maybe. Excuse me. Brian Stewart says the Wolfgang shape is growing on him, the headstock too. At first I was like, nah, but the neck and pickups are amazing. I'm talking MIM models, not US made.
Yeah, I agree. I was not a big fan either of. I wasn't a fan of the Wolfgang until I started watching the Johnny Beans show and became friends with Dave. And then I was like, you know, maybe I'm missing something here, because once I purchased it, I was like, this guitar does everything. You know, you don't have to play Van Halen with this. I can play Nirvana or Stone Temple Pilots or anything, you know, just like Pete is in that alternative band. And, you know, he could jam Van Halen, but he chooses to play a lot of alternative music. So, you know, it's just, I love this guitar.
Oh, for sure.
The Chinese one, flat body. And, you know, the rumor is the Japan plant closed. All the parts were shipped to China. And this one has a bird's eye, you know, neck. And I picked it up for a steal, you know, used, because people don't know. They're like, oh, I would never buy a Chinese guitar. Right. Okay, well, I'm going to buy it because I know exactly what it is, you know. But yeah, no, they're great. It took me a long time to get into it, you know, this year, believe it or not.
Oh, just yeah. Well, I get it too. Like, you know, I'd always been aware of the Wolfgang as, you know, that's Eddie's guitar, whatever. And then like you, I discovered Johnny's channel right about a year ago. And, you know, when they're obviously talking about this and that, and hell, I only thought there was like 3 striped guitars. I figured there was a Frankenstein, the 5150, and a backup of some kind. You know, who knew? Right. I didn't know about the Rude guitar even, or the Star guitar, because unless you saw live pictures or any footage from the handful of tours in the early 80s, you'd never see these guitars because they were never used in press, really. But then it was, I think it wasn't until June of this year. Yeah, June of this year, I was at an event and EVH had a booth because there is no Wolfgangs within an hour's drive of me. And then I picked one up, and my co-host Richie there, he looked at me and goes, "What do you think?" And my only response was, "I get it." You know, as soon as, because I did a run, you know, just like a sliding pentatonic scale, but it was like 15% faster than you've ever done it without warming up. And I was just like, this guitar is so easy to play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And cosmetically, they look, I really, the body shape just grew on me, you know, just everything about it. And the Floyds that they're putting on these things are not cheap, you know, Floyds. I mean, these things are awesome. You know, Dave knows every fact and there is about the Wolfgang, but most of the parts are pretty much used on a lot of different Wolfgangs. You know, whether it's US, I don't know what the Indonesian ones are, but you know, US, Japan, and China, they all have pretty much the same parts on them. So the Mexicans too. I have a black Mexican that I just got, and it's the Stealth, and the thing is, I love it. You know, it's hard to compare the Chinese with the Mexican.
Nice. BV mentions, not sure if you're aware, but my friend Lance Lopez is in the ER with internal bleeding. Well, positive vibes for Lance. That I don't like hearing that. So hopefully he recovers well. And I'm supposed to let you know, BV is going to send you a message on Facebook regarding Eric that we were mentioning earlier. He's a pro musician, Negs endorsee. Oh, awesome. Yeah, and he plays blues metal in quotation marks. That'd be cool.
Sorry to hear about his friend.
Yeah. Yes, BV is very plugged into the guitar community. He, you know, obviously he's been networking for years because he gets a lot of stuff, you know, hey, try this out, let us know what you think. And he, you know, he's maintained a lot of contacts throughout the guitar world, which is really cool. So, which tells me BV must be a hell of a guy because he knows all these people and they're all friends.
Yeah, I've been friends with him on YouTube for a long time now. You know, he's a very, very nice guy.
Yes, all the way from lovely Switzerland. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, yeah, if you guys have any other questions, you know, keep asking away here. Terry's saying there's an issue with Facebook. It might be down. So that would explain why people aren't able to post stuff.
Wow. Well, remember YouTube was down a few weeks ago and the world came to an end almost?
Yeah, right in the middle of Johnny's stream. I remember that.
Right.
Because I was able, it was weird because it was down, but it wasn't, because it was down on my laptop, but I was able to listen to the show without chat on my phone. And because I remember I was messaging Jay through Facebook Messenger but saying, hey, yeah, you're still on. Yeah, so that was weird to say the least. And BV mentioned, yeah, it looks like Buddy's got admitted to the hospital after a show last week. Man, that's terrible. Well, yes, positive vibes, definitely.
Yeah, I just read that Joe Perry was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah, he collapsed the other night.
You know, I didn't follow up on it. Did you hear anything after that or no?
I haven't heard a follow-up, so I would assume it's okay, because if it was bad, we would have heard, you know?
Yeah, right.
But, like, between Joe Perry and Phil Collen, aren't they the two most in-shape guys in rock and roll? Like, those guys look like the epitome of fitness.
And what is it? Iggy Pop also, right? Isn't he like...
Yeah. Yeah, like, man, like, I hate seeing a guy that's, you know, like 20 years older than me with a six-pack, you know, and I'm like, really?
Oh, I put on a lot of weight since I retired. I got to get back to the gym. But Ozzy, is Ozzy 70 yet? Or he's got to be close to it.
I think he's right around there, yeah, because he's the same age as my dad.
You know, you and him have the same hair, and he's not losing it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Guy looks great. And Alice Cooper, you know, Alice's face is much worse than Ozzy, but still, those guys are rocking, you know? Sammy Hagar.
Yeah, Sammy's in his 70s.
It's nice for us to think that we have a goal in life to actually continue doing this, you know, 20 years from now. So...
What ticks me off, I'll say, is like I'm good for about a 75-minute set max, and then I got to sit down. Like, I physically need to sit down. My legs are sore, my back is sore, what have you. And then you got Bruce Springsteen out doing 4-hour concerts. And I'm just like, you're a dick. Because now a bar's going to expect me at much younger age to, okay, you're on from 10 till 2 and don't take a break, you know, type thing. It's like, no.
Yeah, Bruce. I've never seen him live. You know, I've been a big fan, but I just never had the opportunity to go. And if I did get tickets, I would probably choose, you know, Iron Maiden over Bruce. But that's just the way, you know, I was listening to music back then.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. You know, like, I went to see Tom Petty last year, and that was the first major concert I'd probably gone to in 20 years. Because between exchange rate, it's be like, you know, if the ticket is 100 US for you, it's going to be 100 US for me, but with exchange rate, plus, you know, the hour-and-a-half drive into Toronto, which is super expensive to stay overnight. It's just ridiculous, the cost. So I went to see Tom Petty, but that was a $200 ticket plus travel. And I would much rather see, you know, I could see 50 local bands for the same price, or what I call your washed up bands, if you want to call it that, because we have a restored, like an old theater that's restored one town over that seats about 600-700 people. And they'll bring in the older, quote unquote, older bands. Like, I saw April Wine play there, for instance, and it's a $25-$30 ticket.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You know, and you're sitting in a padded seat. People aren't standing the whole show. They're sitting for the whole show. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather go to a small club, you know, theater than go to an arena. Someone's like, oh, you didn't go see Metallica last month? I'm like, I have no desire to go. Even if I could afford the ticket, I wouldn't want to go, because I don't want to sit in a big stadium. I'd rather go to a small club. You know, in New York City, we would all go to BB King's, and it was a small club, and, you know, all the big names were there, and it was just a completely different experience. Even Priest was playing like 1,000-seater club on Long Island. And I walked right up in front of Halford. I never could do that, you know, in an arena, unless you spent $1,000 on one ticket, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I would much rather see a band that is not as popular as they was, and now they're playing a small place, you know?
Exactly. And I find, you know, if you grab the tickets, the first few days they're on sale. Like April Wine, I think I was sitting 8th row. center.
Wow.
You know, so and I just watched Miles Goodwin, the singer / guitar player, and Brian Greenway, their guitar player, and I just focused on them all night. And they're like 40 feet in front of me, and so even with my bad eyesight, I could see exactly what they were doing, and loved it.
Right.
Hey, we got Dan Sullivan joining us, and Absolute Mayhem. Hey, you guys. Good to see you. Good to see you.
What's up, guys?
Yes. Brian Stewart says he saw Fogerty and ZZ Top. Fogerty is 73 and killed it. Oh, yeah, that's a great tour. When I saw that announced, ZZ Top and John Fogerty, that'd be a good double bill.
Oh, yeah. I think there was some controversy with ZZ Top just this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the bands that opened for them, I think the lead singer was wearing a Donald Trump hat, and who is it? Billy Gibbons, and who's the other guy in ZZ Top?
Dusty Hill.
Yeah, they told him, get lost. You're not playing with us. You're out of here. They wouldn't even let him play because of the hat. So, you know, if you Google this later, you'll get the true story. But I just saw a clip of that.
Right.
You know, ZZ Top threw opening band off the stage because the lead singer was wearing a pro-Trump hat, you know. And I don't talk politics, but, you know, something like that is kind of, you know, juvenile, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking there had to be a bit more, you know, what I don't think it'd be simply, okay, you're wearing that hat, you're gone, but it might have been like, we want you to lose the hat. Well, I'm a big supporter of them, and I have my right to do that. And then, okay, so they had an argument, disagreed, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, race, religion, and politics, if you want to lose friends, talk about any of them.
Oh, yeah, I will not post any of that stuff on Facebook, or it's not fun to me anyway.
No,
you know?
I post a little bit of stuff, but even then I don't think most of my friends get it because most of my friends are international and it's usually Canadian politics.
Yeah.
And even then, and it's more like, hey, you know, like I'm all for a decent living wage for worker, you know, stuff like that, which sure you can look at and I might be left leaning, but I won't post a bash the right. I will post love the left type thing, you know, if that makes sense. I don't like posting negativity, you know, other than possibly our premier, which is like our governor, who I disagree with on a multitude of things, but hey. Here we go. We got some information. Joe Perry is still in hospital. He had a tracheostomy backstage. I don't know, unless that was a tracheotomy.
Yeah. Well, they put it
not in great shape.
Tube in his to help him breathe, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, Joe was a heavy smoker for years too, so that may have caught up with him. Old Man Dan says, yeah, completely ridiculous when these entertainers let their political leanings interfere with their performances. It's destroying the enjoyment for fans. Yeah, like, to a point, like, let's take Megadeth, for instance. They were always political in their music. But we know that going in.
Right.
As opposed to, let's say, a band like Kiss, who sings about getting laid every day, for lack of a better term. Then if you had Paul Stanley walk up and do a political rant between songs, yeah, that's not cool. But if you're already an anti-establishment, well, that's part of your shtick.
Yeah, you know, I never even knew really what Megadeth was talking about. I just liked the songs and the solos and, you know, Peace Sells. I never, like, studied the lyrics to even, you know, follow that stuff. I just thought it was an awesome song. You know?
And I thought it was interesting. Yeah, hey, Eric C., by the way. I would say I thought it was interesting because I remember, like, in high school, you know, you have your long hair. If you were lucky, you had a leather jacket. If not, you were wearing a denim jacket with your patches on it, you know. And I very rarely ever touched a beer underage because I didn't have access to it. I certainly didn't do any form of drugs, but I looked the part. You know, and they're like, oh, you know, there's that stoner. He doesn't know what's going on in the world. You know, and this is from my parents' generation, that a lot of them were hippies and activists. And they're like, oh, you got to get involved. And I'm like, you don't know. Like 25% of the music I listen to is very political because I'm listening to their generation's protest music, but I'm also listening to my generation's protest music because it was all against the PMRC and the warning labels and all that was going on. And it's just like, believe me, I am much more plugged in than you think I am.
Right.
You know, like if you were listening to Peter Gabriel at all in the 80s, you were turned on to world events or Paul Simon or any of that stuff.
The PMRC, that was like a total joke, though, if you really think about it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what really happened? Did they put stickers on the jackets of a record? Is that like all they really got accomplished?
Yeah, exactly. That, ooh, there's going to be some foul language. And I don't even know. Well, I think it actually in some states it changed where if the sticker was on there, you had to be 18 to purchase the album.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, around here, we had the stickers in Canada, and I was buying the albums underage. All it was literally a warning.
Yeah, right. My parents never even knew it existed. So
yeah. Hey, we got Rick Romanelli in here. Hey, Rick, good to see you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes. Yeah, you know, and it's kind of funny because the people that were rebelling, you know, it's the difference of age. You know, whether we sold out, became corporate, or really we became citizens is what we did, was we protested against Tipper Gore to death in the 80s, but then you had those very same folks voting for her husband 10 years, 15 years later.
Right.
You know? So it's kind of funny that way. But there you go. So, yeah, and, you know, I guess, you know, they had their idea of what they wanted to do, and, you know, it was the 80s where it's funny because so much, like, when you think about, like, the guys like Motley Crue, the partying, you could never do now, you know, because let's be honest, all these guys would have been Me Too'd, you know, type thing, which I'm surprised, you know, unfortunately and fortunately that it's coming out, again, not to be political, but when the whole Me Too started and we had all these actors, you know, or politicians and this and that getting called out on this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, well, we all knew the term casting couch back in the day. So not that we ever condoned it, but we were aware of it. But how did all these rock bands not get pegged out? You know, with touring and partying with groupies every night and the drugs and debauchery, that's just like, my God, you know, like Nikki Sixx could have hundreds probably, you know, and we love Nikki. Nikki's a great guy, but, you know, he could potentially have hundreds of lawsuits. But, you know, I think a lot of it is people realize, you know, you can be politically correct, but to say it was the 80s or it was the 70s, and it was a different time. You know, and, you know, and I don't like seeing anybody taken advantage of in any way, but times have changed, and for the good, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean there were no cell phones, no video cameras.
Thank God.
Yeah, you just couldn't tell the world what was going on, you know. So when they had these hotel parties and things got out of hand, you know, it stayed in house, and if it was told to someone, well, they would give you hush money, or they would tell you, you know, get the hell out of here. Now, one video sent to your local news station, and that guy's career is history, you know? So things changed big time. You know, even in the 80s videos, you'd have people signing autographs on women's, you know, chests and stuff like that.
Hey, I remember that we have a huge country music festival here, like about an hour north of me. And a buddy of mine, his band was asked to play the event. You know, it's one of those local bands, so you go on at 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And I was like, oh, man, you know, you were playing in front of like 3,000 to 5,000 people. Like, how was it? And all he did was he grinned and he said, I got to sign boobs. That was the highlight of it for him. I got to sign boobs.
Yeah, I've
And
never.
Brian Stewart says, I had crew in my limo. There was debauchery. I'm sworn to secrecy. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he said there will be never be another Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison, or George Carlin. Way too edgy for today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes and no. If it's informed, provocative, or you can't just go out and slag somebody. But if it's an informed opinion, yeah, you can get into some of that stuff. But I agree, which is good, because I'd rather us tiptoe a bit rather than running roughshod over everybody.
Well, people forget too. Like Louis C.K. is starting to climb his way back.
Right.
And a year from now, nobody's going to remember exactly what he did that got people pissed off if he comes out with a great comedy, show and
right.
is back on top again. They forget, unless it's something, very serious. But yeah, those comedians, they were on the road, and I'm sure they had their groupies just like rock stars did.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yep. I agree.
But something, we've been chatting for a long time, and time went super fast. So my son's going to be getting off the bus soon, and
all right,
we'll call it a rocking lunch hour, or what?
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. So if you just hold the line, I will wrap things up on my end here. So again, we got 35 people watching. That's awesome. So again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring that bell so you get notified of any stuff we put up. If you look in the description below, there is a link to Broken Chain's account. Give him a sub. Check out his stuff. He's got him doing covers. He's got his bands on there. Awesome stuff. And we got a bunch more links to some cool channels, friends of ours down below as well. As well as if you want to help out with the channel, we have a couple of GoFundMe accounts going. We've got Canucks with Guitars merch. So we got shirts and coffee mugs and pillowcases and onesies for your babies. And I always say, folks, hold those doors open. Let that guy in ahead of you in traffic. Do good things, and good things will happen to you, because karma is real, folks. I'm living the dream. And I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in live. If you're watching on replay, again, please subscribe. There's going to be another video showing up around over here. Check it out. Well, hopefully tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on Michael B's channel. And if not, I will see all you folks Thursday with the Canucks with Guitars show. Cheers, rock on, and be good to each other.